Part 140. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1391. Chapter 1391. She is unconscious. Panner's situation is very bad and she must go to a regular hospital for examination. Go to the hospital. Lee's father shook his head upon hearing this. No, no, how much does it cost to go to the hospital? These words are unbearable for people to listen to. Dr. Ying couldn't help but ask, is money or my daughter more important? Concerning this issue, the Lee family couple looked at each other and refused to say anything. If there is enough money in front of them, they will definitely choose money without hesitation. From this performance, we know their choice. Dr. Ying shook his head helplessly, and just put Lee Panner's condition in a bad light. She was not in good health to begin with. The long-term labor prevented her from getting a good rest, which directly dragged her body down. Now she has to wait until she wakes up. Even if she wakes up, she won't be able to get out of bed for 10 days and a half, and she has to be well cared for. What? If she can't get out of bed for 10 days and a half, doesn't that mean she still has to be cared for? She's such a big person. Wouldn't it be better if she wakes up? The Lee family are considered rough people. They don't usually get sick, so they really don't realize the pressure on Lee Panner's weak body. Dr. Ying couldn't help but ridicule, oh, you still want Panner to work for you. This attitude was unacceptable to Mother Lee, and she shouted back dissatisfied, how can you talk like this? Dr. Ying felt confident and said, if you don't like to hear it, you can go out, otherwise you can take your daughter back and treat it yourself. You. Seeing that the situation was not good, Father Lee quickly pulled Mother Lee away and said, forget it. Dr. Ying, since Panner hasn't woken up yet, I'd like you to take care of her first. I have some things to do at home, so let's go back first. With just one excuse, Lee's father left Lee Panner's trouble at Dr. Ying's house, and he and his wife ran away without even mentioning a penny. The soles of the feet felt like oil, and they disappeared after a while. After the couple left, Dr. Ying's wife came over with a bowl of medicine and fed it to Lee Panner. The Lee family is really heartless. It's so pitiful for Panner. How come he has such unscrupulous parents? Yes, I doubt that I am biological. Isn't it true? How can you do this to your biological daughter? Dr. Ying's wife complained a few words, but was still full of sympathy for Lee Panner. Lee Panner stayed here today. The next day, Fang Yuxi knocked on the door with a few eggs. Uncle, my mother asked me to give these eggs to you. Hey, come in quickly. Fang Yuxi is Dr. Ying's nephew. The two relatives have a very good relationship and often visit each other. No, the Fang family's chickens were doing well this year in the winter, and they laid a few eggs and brought them over. Ask the doctor to stay home for lunch. Fang Yuxi regards this place as half of his home and is very familiar with it. He wanted to go into the room to get something, but suddenly he found someone else in the room. Curiosity drove him closer, and when he saw it, he turned out to be Lee Panner. Uncle, why is Lee Panner here? Alas, this child fainted. His parents didn't care about anything and just stayed here. Wow, I've heard that her parents are not very kind to her, but I didn't expect them to be so cruel. How serious is it to just leave your child at someone else's house? Of course you are lucky to meet a good person. If you meet someone with evil intentions, then Lee Panner will be disabled. Is she okay? There's something going on, it's a big deal. Heart trouble. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lukixi. Chapter 1392. Chapter 1392. Go find Yezhiruo. Heart disease, no way. Fang Yuxi heard more things from Dr. Ying, and he suddenly remembered, Panner already knows Miss Qinjin in the city. When he came back last time, the young lady told Panner to come to her if anything happened. How about giving it a try? This. Dr. Ying has not seen it with his own eyes, so he cannot say for sure about this kind of thing. Fang Yuxi also heard that Li Painter had only known Miss Ye for a day, which made her even more worried. Maybe it's just a whim. I think Miss Ye is quite nice. A girl feels pity for another girl. Although this kind of fate is difficult to understand, when a person is in a desperate situation, he has to try every method to know the result. But we don't know how to contact him either. You have to ask Li Painter about this. Li Painter slept for a day and a night, during which time Dr. Ying gave her medicine to nourish her body. In the afternoon, Li Painter finally woke up. She woke up and found that she was not at home. She was still confused for a while. It wasn't until Dr. Ying came in that I realized this was someone else's house. Me, why am I here? Have you forgotten how you fainted? I fainted. It seems you really don't remember. There is no doubt about this issue. Li Painter and Dr. Ying talked with each other and found out that she fainted at home yesterday and it was already the second day. She was abandoned by her parents at someone else's house. Although I know that I am not liked by my parents, I still can't help but feel sad when this happens. Dr. Ying tentatively mentioned the matter of Yezhiruo. Fang Yuxi happened to be here at this time. Panner, didn't Miss Ye like you very much last time? How about you try to ask her for help? Ask Sister Ye for help. What are you doing? Of course I'm borrowing money to see a doctor. I've heard from my uncle that you have a heart problem. Didn't the doctor at the Egg College Infirmary recommend you go to the hospital for a checkup last time? Li Painter understood what Fang Yuxi meant. Fang Yuxi wanted her to go to Yezhiruo to borrow money for medical treatment. Li Painter shook his head subconsciously. Why are you so embarrassed to trouble others? Don't bother others over and over again just because they are kind-hearted. This approach will be considered shameful. You can't think like that. You really have no choice. Is your life more important than your face? Li Painter did not give an answer. Dr. Ying tried to smooth things over. Okay, you two little guys, please stop frowning. I'm going to say a few words and you can hear whether this is true. Panner, you are sick now and have to go to the hospital for examination, but we are powerless to help you. If the method you 11 said is really feasible, you might as well give it a try. People living in this world must communicate with each other. Help, you are asking for help, and you are not taking advantage of others, right? You can make everyone feel at ease after getting checked. We don't have money now, but you can work hard to make money and pay it back to others in the future. Dr. Ying tried his best to provide psychological counseling to Li Painter. At this point, Li Painter began to hesitate. Is there really something wrong with her heart? Li Painter wrote a series of numbers on the palm of her hand. Those were the contact information Yezhiruo left for her at that time, and she had memorized them by heart. Sister Ye, can I ask you for help? Is she really going to find Yezhiruo? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1393. Chapter 1393 Dancing. Dr. Ying once said, heart problems can be big or small, and they may be fatal. You might die. Li Painter's condition is very special, and Dr. Ying did not deliberately say that she was fine just to comfort her. Only by saying something more serious can Li Painter make up his mind. She remembered her grandma's last words, she wanted to live well. Dr. Ying handed his mobile phone to Li Painter. Li Painter held it tightly in his hand. For a long time, he dialed a number that he knew by heart. Come on, raise your hand and turn to the right. Yes, look here, teacher. In the spacious dance room, about a dozen girls in dance practice clothes were studying seriously with the teacher. The bright mirror reflected their graceful figures and beautiful faces. Yasuhiro's cell phone glowed in her backpack, but no one knew it. By the time a round of practice was over, I was still sweating from dancing in this winter. Yasuhiro, you have made great progress recently. Thank you, teacher. Yasuhiro took a breath and turned on her cell phone to check the messages as a habit. She found that there was a missed call, and it was not from the city. Just as a QQ message window of Yin Semiao popped up, Yasuhiro clicked on it and said a few words to her friends. As for the phone number with only one call record, Yasuhiro thought it was someone else's wrong call and didn't pay much attention to it for a while. Someone came over and patted her on the shoulder, humbly asking for advice. Hey, Yasuhiro, can you help me see this dance move? Yasuhiro smiled and nodded, okay. She would come here to learn dance on weekends, and she had always been like this. But school is about to end, and the dance studio is out. Ye Qingfeng stepped on the spot to pick up people. Yasuhiro, your brother is so kind to you, he comes to pick you up from get out of class every week. He has to obey the tasks issued by the queen at home. Yasuhiro's brother is really the Kuokian brother type. Even if Ye Qingfeng is labeled as 24 filial brothers, it is not an exaggeration. Yasuhiro handed the satchel to Ye Qingfeng and went to the dressing room to change clothes. After coming out, the two brothers and sister left together again. Brother, I heard that your taekwondo team has a small test today, did you pass it? Heh, don't look at who your brother is. Do you still need to ask this question? The answer is obvious. You are narcissistic again. That's right, Ye Qingfeng is learning taekwondo not far away. The two brothers and sisters have always had a rich life in their spare time. They do not want to be playboys. They regard learning as a motivation to become excellent, and they are willing to do it. By the way, my phone is out of battery. Lend me your phone to make a call. It's in the bag, look for it. Yasuhiro put her cell phone in her bag, and Ye Qingfeng touched it at once. He knew the unlocking password without asking. Ye Qingfeng called his good friend and hung up after a few words. Yasuhiro couldn't help teasing him, brother, you are saving me phone bills. As for the phone bill, I'll charge you as much as you want. Hey, rich guy, give me a hug. At this moment, the mobile phone in Ye Qingfeng's hand lit up again. There's a call coming in. Who? Unfamiliar number. Yasuhiro took the phone over. At a glance, she remembered the strange phone number that did not belong to the city. Called twice in a row and she answered. Hello. Hello, yes, are you Yasuhiro? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1394. Chapter 1394, Bring Panur to the city. Hello, yes, are you Yasuhiro? The voice coming from the cell phone was an unfamiliar middle-aged male voice. The phone call was a bit interesting as I was called by name. Yes, I am. Are you? Do you know a person named Li Panur? Panur, what's wrong? It seems you still remember. Dr. Ying on the other end of the phone breathed a sigh of relief and began to tell Yasuhiro about Li Panur's current condition. Yasuhiro followed Ye Qingfeng while answering the phone. When crossing the road, she almost walked out. Fortunately, Ye Qingfeng had quick eyes and quick hands to pull the person to her side. Ruruo, watch the road. Good. Yasuhiro put away her mobile phone and said the word good again, looking a little dazed. Whose phone number? A person who knows Li Panur. It's her again. The girl named Li Panur is still fresh in their memory. Brother, I might have to ask Uncle Gu for help. Uncle Gu, you want to go to the hospital? Panur is seriously ill and her situation is somewhat special. I want to help her. When Dr. Ying begged her to save Li Panur's life, she agreed. The Ye family is not short of money, and any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. She originally said she would send a car to pick up Li Panur, but the doctor firmly promised that she would send Lee Panner over in person. What Yasuhiro has to do now is go to the hospital to make an appointment. What the doctor means is that I can temporarily pay for Lee Panner's treatment, and they will be responsible for other things themselves. Do you want money? Brother, you can't say that. If money can save a life, why not do it, not to mention that I have a good impression of Panner. As you wish. The night breeze was leaning against the door, thinking. He does not reject Lee Panner, but every time he sees Lee Panner, he is associated with Yasuhiro. He feels a little irritated by this situation. Dr. Ying was worried that Lee Panner's condition might break out at any time, so he took Lee Panner into the city early the next morning. As soon as they left, the Lee family's couple walked up to the Ying family's door. Dr. Ying's wife was cleaning medicinal materials at home. When she saw the Lee family and his wife coming, she acted as if she hadn't seen them. Father Lee walked in and asked, "Where is Panner?" "Panner is not here." "What?" "My daughter is obviously here with you. Please call her out. We will take her home." "I told Panner that she's not here. She left when she woke up yesterday." "Why, hasn't she gone back yet?" "You're lying to me." The Lee family couple didn't believe it and broke into the room where Lee Panner was lying in a coma. Opening the door and lifting the quilt, I looked inside and out but couldn't see a single person. The Lee family couple believed his wife's words with hesitation. "My daughter has been recuperating at your place, how come she disappeared just like she said she didn't see her?" "What you are saying is really funny. You are leaving your daughter here without paying me a penny. My home is not a shelter. Of course I will let her go when she wakes up." Mrs. Ying's attitude became tough now, which frightened both the Lee family and his wife. Father Lee exchanged a few words with Mother Lee in a low voice and left the Ying family. The reason why they walked so quickly was because they had no money and were afraid that others would force them to take money. This is really strange. If she went home, why didn't she see anyone? It's not like the Ying family members got together to deceive us, right? Pen-er will see his biological father and mother soon. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1395. Chapter 1395 Panner's fate changes. Dr. Ying sent Yasuhiro the address to get off the bus, but Yasuhiro actually went there in person. When Yasuhiro asked the driver to drive to the station, the driver was confused. "Miss, what are you doing at the station?" "Pick up a friend." This is the first time Yasuhiro comes to the train station. The waiting hall of a large train station, but the people inside were scattered around sitting or standing on the ground, making it look very messy. If you call me at night and no one answers, you can only park the car outside and wait. The train arrived at the station, and Lee Panner was in a very bad state. Dr. Ying contacted Yasuhiro only after he carried her out. Yasuhiro was sitting in the car and saw Dr. Ying from a distance. Because he was the only one who echoed the characteristics described over the phone. Yasuhiro opened the car door and stood there waving. Dr. Ying walked up step by step and felt a little weird when he saw Yasuhiro. He often comes to the city to buy medicine or study, and has met many city people. But now he realizes that there are many kinds of people in the city. He heard that Miss Ye was about the same age as Lee Panner, but he didn't expect to look so elegant. "Are you Yasuhiro?" What's wrong with Panner? Get in the car first." Arrived at the car, Dr. Ying slowly squatted down and put Lee Panner down. After Dr. Ying and Lee Panner got into the car, Yasuhiro actually sat in the back seat with them. Yasuhiro looked at Lee Panner and found that her face was pale and she looked very weak. Yasuhiro held her hand and felt that her fingers were very cold. "Look serious. Sister yet. Okay, don't talk for now. Just sleep for a while. You'll be fine in a while." Yasuhiro is very organized when he handles things seriously, like an adult with mature thinking. After appeasing Lee Panner, Yasuhiro directly reported the address of the hospital to the driver. But the driver hesitated. "Miss, if you go to the urban hospital now, you will be late for the dance studio." "It's okay, I'll ask the teacher for leave, let's go." "Okay." Although Lee Panner closed her eyes, she listened carefully to the conversation between them. She was very moved in her heart, as if a warm stream of heat filled her heart. Dr. Ying did not expect that Lee Panner would be so lucky to meet such a good and rich man. Yasuhiro had already asked someone to go through a series of appointment procedures in the hospital, and directly arranged for hospitalization after bringing Lee Panner to the hospital. Dr. Ying always seemed to be hesitant to speak when he was around Yasuhiro. Yasuhiro saw through his mind and said, "Mr. Ying, you seem to have something to tell me." Yeah, the hospitalization fees in this hospital should be very expensive, right? This is the best hospital in S city, what do you think? "Miss, yeah, we can't afford that much." Yasuhiro shook his head. "Who said you should take the responsibility?" Dr. Ying said, "Although Panner is still a child, she also has her own principles. In fact, she never thought of asking you for help. It was my nephew Fang Yuxi who mentioned your matter that gave us a little hope to find you. Before coming here, Panner said that she must write an IOU with you, and whatever money she spent will be paid back to you slowly in the future, even if it takes a lifetime." The second half of the sentence is Lee Panner's original words. Yasuhiro understands, but so what? "So, Mr. Ying, what do you want me to do?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1396. Chapter 1396, Does she have a hereditary heart disease? If he really wanted to say it, he didn't know what to say. They came to the city just to treat Lee Panner. Did they leave because they had more money? Wouldn't that be contrary to Yu's original intention? "Mr. Ying, don't worry. I have a way to make Panner accept my help with peace of mind. As for the money issue, you don't have to worry. As the saying goes, I just have a lot of money. If you have a lot of money, you are not afraid to spend it. The real way to save money is not to save, but to work hard to earn more. She has a way to earn it, so why is she still afraid of spending money? What's more, even if she has been a rice bug all her life, she still has Yejia's backing. For her, money is just a form of trading things." The hospital quickly examined Lee Panner, and it was only after this examination that it was discovered that there was something wrong with her whole body. She was weak, lacked nutrition, suffered from ailments, and most importantly, her heart. The result of the examination was angina pectoris. The blood supply to the myocardium is relatively insufficient. Any reduction in myocardial blood supply and increased oxygen consumption can easily induce angina pectoris. The chance of this disease happening to a child is very small. Is there something hereditary in her family? No, we live in the same village as the Lee family, and we have never heard of any of the Lee family having heart disease. How did that happen? Yasuhiro began to feel sad. This disease is troublesome and cannot be cured easily. A frail person like Lee Panner needs to live in a calm and stable environment for a long time to recuperate. If she continues to live as she did before, the situation will be even worse. The Lee family doesn't regard her as a daughter at all. They let one child do all the dirty work in the house. Look at her hands, all 10 fingers are covered with frostbite, and every good spot is covered in frostbite. Dr. Ying seems to want to wipe out all the crimes committed by the Lee family and his wife. He took Lee Panner's hand and showed it to Yasuhiro, who remained silent. She felt it when she held Lee Panner in the car. She didn't ask much at that time. Now while Lee Panner was asleep, She took a closer look. Her hands were all red, which made her feel uncomfortable. She could hardly imagine what kind of life Li Panner lived in the Li family. She couldn't help but ask Dr. Ying, who said a lot. But she thought that Li Panner's real life should be heavier than what Dr. Ying said. The Li family were afraid of giving me money, so they left Panner at my house. I brought Panner here quietly for treatment this time. If they found out, I don't know what trouble would happen. Since they don't want a daughter, they should never see Panner again. That's what I say, but they are blood relatives. Yasuhiro felt as if she was holding a breath in her heart. She couldn't help but think, it would be better to find any orphanage than to live in the Li family. Well, this matter is troublesome. Yasuhiro stayed in the hospital for half a day. Ye Qingfeng only learned about Yasuhiro's request for leave from the dance studio at noon. Yasuhiro asked Ye Qingfeng to keep her secret for the time being. Who would have known that Ye Wei took the children out for a big dinner on a whim, and went to pick them up in person in the afternoon? Only then did he know that Yasuhiro had not come. What if? He. Ye Qingfeng smiled awkwardly, but he still couldn't keep the secret after all. Ye Wei felt a little unreliable when he heard this. You also have to ask Ruruo for this kind of thing. Ye Qingfeng shook his head. Then I really don't know. Which hospital is it in? Take me to see it. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1397. Chapter 1397. The only night I saw Panner. Ginger is still old and spicy. Even though Ye Qingfeng tried all kinds of excuses, he still didn't fool Ye Wei. Let's go, take me to find Ruruo. Ye Wei was sure that Ye Qingfeng knew Yasuhiro's whereabouts. What else can Ye Qingfeng do except obey the orders of his mother? He is a poor little guy living at the bottom of the family's food chain. Before leaving, Ye Qingfeng had only one request left. Mommy, if you go, please don't say that I was the one who was exposed. Ye Wei patted his cheek with a smile on his face. Don't worry, my good son, Mommy will never betray you. Such a beautiful smile, Ye Qingfeng could not help but tremble when looking at it. Sure enough, people living at the bottom of the food chain are miserable. Ye Wei rushed to the hospital with his son, and soon found the ward where Li Panner was huddled. She did not rush away in a hurry. Instead, she stood outside the door and hesitated. Ye Qingfeng pointed in the direction of the door. Mommy, my sister is inside. Ye Wei nodded. I know. Ye Qingfeng asked, then why don't you go in? Ye Wei asked back, what if Ruruo blames me for not respecting her private affairs? Ye Qingfeng twitched the corner of his mouth and gave her another suggestion. How about we leave? It's still too late now. The result was rejected by Ye Wei without hesitation. What a crooked idea. Can I rest assured if I don't see Ruruo with my own eyes? Mommy, please. Ye Yuyi didn't move, so he reached out and pushed Ye Qingfeng. Go ahead. Yes, you young people are easy to communicate with. Your sister will definitely not be too worried when she sees you. Go ahead. Everything happens to me. Ye Qingfeng complained aggrievedly, but he did obediently open the door. Ye Qingfeng entered the ward smoothly. Nothing strange happened, and Ye Wei breathed a sigh of relief. Dr. Ying, who had just returned from the toilet, found the back of a woman standing outside Li Panner's ward. Dr. Ying went over to say hello out of curiosity and wanted to ask her what her condition was. Unexpectedly, when I walked over and took a look, I discovered that she was a young beauty. Miss, what can I do for you? Huh, miss. Hearing this title, the only thing that makes the night happy. This shows that in the eyes of others, she is still very young and beautiful. Before Dr. Ying and Ye Yuyi's minds were connected to the same thread, a call came from the door. Mommy. Looking up, she saw Yasuhiro standing at the door waving to her. Ye Qingfeng made some small moves next to Yasuhiro. Ye Wei opened his mouth and silently complained to Ye Qingfen, "You little traitor." Dr. Ying reacted belatedly, "Oh, are you Miss Ye's mother?" "Yes. Nice to meet you." "Hello, Mrs. Ye." "Hello, who are you?" Just like that, several people introduced each other. Ye Wei also learned more about Li Painter from Dr. Ying. Anyone who hears this can't help but sigh, poor child. She has a family and parents, but her life is so hard. I want to go in and see her. Sure. Dr. Ying now hopes that everyone in the Ye family will have a good impression of Li Painter, even sympathy, so that Li Painter may get more help. Ye Wei walked to the bed with gentle steps and stared at the girl lying on the bed carefully. Li Painter. This name sounds familiar? End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lu Kixi. Chapter 1398. Chapter 1398 Treatment requires a lot of money. After seeing Li Painter, Ye Wei made a decision quickly, I will pay for this medical expenses. Yes Hiruo. There are still people rushing to do this. Mommy, really? That's great, I've kept my lucky money. This year's New Year's money will be confiscated. Yeshiruo quickly covered her mouth with her hands, Mommy, you are a rich man, don't be as knowledgeable as me. Ye Wei had never been in close contact with such a pitiful child. Li Painter's body was as thin as skin and bones. Although I haven't had any contact with Li Painter yet, these children look like poor children. If she can help this child with some money, it will be a very valuable thing. Yayoi is an adult who has experienced many things, and has arranged things more comprehensively than Yeshiruo. Considering that Dr. Ying alone could not take care of Li Painter 24 hours a day, she hired a professional nurse to take care of her. Dr. Ying is very grateful to them. When Li Painter woke up, the sky was already dark. She saw Dr. Ying sitting on the side reading a book. She sat up on the bed and called out, Uncle Ying. Dr. Ying, who was looking seriously, was called away by the small voice. Seeing that Li Painter was awake, he felt relieved. Uncle Ying, how long have I slept? It's been most of the day, no, it's already dark. Having fallen asleep until now, I haven't woken up at all. Li Painter knocked her head and sighed, I really don't feel anything at all. It's okay, I'll be fine once I receive treatment. By the way, where is Sister Ye? She has gone home. By the way, her family also came to the hospital to see you this afternoon. Mrs. Ye said that she is willing to bear all your medical expenses. Mrs. Ye, is Sister Ye's mother? Yes. They are such a nice family, I don't even know how to repay them. Painter, you are still young, and treatment is the most important thing we can do, other things slowly. Dr. Ying has not even told her the huge cost of treatment. Dong dong. The nurse knocked on the door and came in with dinner. Li Painter didn't know that this was the only nurse specially invited for her in the night, and she was pleasantly surprised. Uncle Ying, the hospitals in the city also take care of the food. She opened the lunch box and looked at it. The contents inside looked very appetizing. Wow, it smells so good. The nurse put the dishes and chopsticks on her side and said nothing. Uncle Ying, come and eat together. Li Painter's invitation came from her heart. As expected, Dr. Ying put down his book and came over, only to find that there was only a pair of bowls and chopsticks in the lunch box. The nurse said apologetically, sorry, I am only responsible for taking care of Miss Li, sir, you. Dr. Ying patted his head and said, it's okay, it's okay. I'm not very hungry yet. I'll go out to eat when I get hungry later. Li Painter also thought it was just food for patients and didn't think much about it. Dr. Ying touched his stomach, but he was still hungry after all. Well, nurse, please keep an eye on me, I'll go out to eat something and I'll be right back. Okay. After Dr. Ying left, Li Painter enjoyed the food quietly. Because she was sick, she specially made something light but nutritious, but it was already a delicacy for her. Ms. Li, if you need anything, just call me. Sister nurse, just call me by my name is Li Painter. The nurse lowered her eyes and wanted to laugh when she heard the name. I don't understand how this kind of person got involved with the family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1399. Chapter 1399 The Reversal from Poverty to Wealth. Li Painter finished her meal, took her lunchbox and asked, "Where can I wash the dishes?" When the nurse heard this question, she curled her lips and said, "Ms. Li, there's no need to wash this. I'll just take it out and throw it away later." Throw it away? Throw away the dishes and chopsticks? Yes, these are all one-time use. Li Painter felt unbelievable at what she said. Although these bowls are not made of porcelain, they look very nice, but why do you throw them away after just one meal? This matter is really beyond the scope of her understanding. I think this bowl is quite good, it can be used next time after cleaning it, so don't throw it away. Ms. Li, you don't need to worry about these things, you just need to rest and recover. The nurse took the dishes and chopsticks from her hands, took them out and threw them into the trash can. Li Painter is still a little confused. From the time she woke up to now, the attitude, names, and food of others towards her have all changed dramatically. When she was at home, the Li family and her husband would always yell at her and ask her to do various things. Now people call her by honorific titles. She doesn't have to wash the dishes herself when eating such good food. Has she fallen into another world? Next, Li Painter discovered that every time she wanted to do something, the nurse had already prepared it for her. She just needed to enjoy it. Li Painter couldn't adapt for a while, and she even suspected that she was dreaming. When Dr. Ying came back, Li Painter called Dr. Ying over and asked quietly, "Uncle Ying, that nurse sister does a very comprehensive job. Are all the nurses in this hospital like this? Isn't it very expensive?" Dr. Ying comforted her, "You don't have to worry about these things now. You are a patient and need to take good care of yourself. If you continue to do those tasks, your condition will definitely recur, and you may never be able to cure it." Hide half-truths and half-truths about money. Li Painter has not experienced any major right or wrong apart from the hardships of life since she was a child. She has a relatively simple mind and is easily fooled. What's more, she trusts Dr. Ying very much and always feels that what Dr. Ying says is right. Li Painter spent a day lying in the hospital, and she realized that she had never been so leisurely. Sleep when you want to sleep. When you don't want to sleep, you can also go for a walk outside to breathe fresh air. But at the same time, she also had a lot of uneasiness in her heart. She was thinking, do Mom and Dad know she is here? What would you do if you knew? She was thinking, can her disease really be cured all at once? How much does it cost to treat the disease? Can she pay it back to Yasuhiro if she works hard to make money in the future? The things that bothered her were actually related to money. For the Li family, money can solve those problems. Li Painter's guess was not wrong either. At that time, the Li family and his wife searched the whole village but could not find Li Painter. Dr. Ying thought that he could hide it, but he did not want anyone in the village to see Dr. Ying taking Li Painter away, so he leaked the news. When the Li family couple heard that Dr. Ying had taken Li Painter to the city, they turned around and went to the Ying family to cause trouble. Mrs. Ying had no choice but to tell them, "My man took Painter to the city for medical treatment. If you think it's not possible, you can bring the money or go to the city to bring him back." The Li couple thought about it together and thought, it would be great to be able to treat their daughter without having to pay for it herself. When Lee Panner gets treatment and returns home, wouldn't he be able to do better things for them? Thinking about it this way, the Lee family and his wife immediately went home. When they went out to work, they would always take a detour when they saw Mrs. Ying. End of this chapter. My green plums are super sweet. Author, Lou Kixie. Chapter 1400. Chapter 1400, How dare the nurse bully her for being poor? After all the results of Lee Panner's physical examination came out, the doctor's advice was to observe first. The most important thing is to take a good rest and rest. Dr. Ying stood there with her hands on her hips, looking a little embarrassed. If she goes back with Panner, the two people from the Lee family will definitely let her do all those dirty and tiring jobs again. There will be no way for her to rest. Yasuhiro learned about this and told Lee Panner to stay in the hospital as if he was being kept for observation. The doctor agreed. But he has been in the city for 3 days and can no longer stay with Lee Panner. He told Yasuhiro about this in private, and Yasuhiro reassured him. Don't worry, there are caregivers watching over you, don't worry. For this reason, the Ye family hired another caregiver, and asked the previous one to be responsible for the daytime and this one to be responsible for the night. Dr. Ying saw how kind Yasuhiro was to Lee Panner, so he felt relieved and said goodbye to Lee Panner for the time being. After Dr. Ying left, Lee Panner was a little confused. She was left alone in this strange place, feeling helpless. If you have to go to class at night during the day, you can't even visit if you want to. Yasuhiro was afraid that she would be bored and gave her a mobile phone with several popular games on it. Lee Panner didn't know how to play with a smartphone yet, so she had to ask the nurse who looked after her for help. Sister nurse, how do you play this game? You need to log in to the mobile game, but Lee Panner doesn't even have an account. After asking this question several times, the nurse became a little annoyed. Why don't you even know this? Lee Panner was sensitive to her dissatisfaction, so she had no choice but to hold her mobile phone and study it. Finally she became obsessed with Xioxidal. The nurse has been here for a long time and gradually knows about Lee Panner. The two nurses stood together during the afternoon shift. During the day, they couldn't help but mutter a few words. She's just a wild girl from the countryside. She was lucky enough to get help from a rich family. In fact, she is as stupid as an idiot. This I don't understand either. I said I should throw away the things, but she said it was a waste and insisted on picking them up. Oh, we can just get the salary anyway. You are lucky. She goes to bed early at night and you don't have to worry too much, but I have to watch over her during the day. The caregiver who was keeping watch at night tugged on her arm. As soon as the nurse guarding Tian Tian finished speaking, another cold voice came from behind. Since you are so unwilling, then you won't be able to come from tomorrow. Yayoi walked over expressionlessly and glanced at the nurse, who immediately panicked. Mrs. Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't apologize to me, just pack your things and leave, you won't come back tomorrow. Mrs. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Please give me another chance. Don't make me talk nonsense. No matter how much the nurse apologized, Yayoi would never relent. Seeing Yayoi enter the ward, she even wanted to go in and ask for forgiveness, and wanted to use Lee Panner to let her stay, but Yayoi's look told her to shut up. She seemed to read the threat from Yayoi's eyes. If she had said a few more words, the consequences would have been even worse. The nurse was filled with regret. Almost no one came to visit Lee Panner, not to mention that it was time to get off work. She just complained casually but was the only one who caught the action the other night. It was really unlucky. Lee Panner had no idea about this matter. After the only one entered that night, Lee Panner looked at her very seriously. End of this chapter.